What's going on, guys? Chandler here. So this is going to be my new segment on my YouTube channel called First Listen Review that is taken from my $5 tier full album reactions. So I react to the entire album, and then at the very end I give my overall thoughts and initial thoughts and a score on the album as a whole. So again, if you do like what you see and want to support the channel going forward, head over to patreon.com/ChandlerBurtonEntertainment. This is exclusive to the $5 tier. Again, you get a full album reaction, review, and a whole bunch of other perks as well if you guys are interested. And again, there's always a link down below in the description and in the pinned comment. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoy the review, and thank you all so much for watching. All right, man. Well, I am pleasantly surprised. I don't think this band is bad at all by any means, but again, I don't listen to them that often. But I really like this album, man. That was a really good listen. I'm excited to talk about it. So I'm gonna give my first listen review, and that is coming up next. So stick around for that. All right, my friends. So again, that was Lamb of God and their brand new album Omens. Just got done jamming the entire thing with you guys here. Again, very pleasantly surprised with this album here. I really enjoyed it, man. I thought it was super cool all the way through, and I'm super excited to talk about it with you guys here. So I would say pro number one for this album is that it is extremely well paced. Like you could tell when a band goes through the track, it's like, okay, we should put this song here, put this song here, put this song here, to kind of help the album just flow the best it possibly can. And I felt like for this album, it absolutely did. It just flowed really well. It didn't seem overly long. Some songs didn't seem like it was like short or vice versa, like overly long or overly short. Everything was super well paced throughout this album. And again, that's a big thing. It's kind of like a movie, you know. Sometimes you just know when you go to watch a movie if the movie's going to be good or the pace is going to be good after the first few minutes. After listening to like Nevermore, Vanishing, and To the Grave, I was like, the pacing on this album is going to be great. And it was. I thought the album was really well paced. I say pro number two, gotta give it to Randy's vocals, man. I mean, Randy, again, as I said, for being an older vocalist here, it doesn't sound like it at all. He just sounds so good. Like, his screams are very clear to understand. Even though the lyrics were on screen, that definitely did help here. But like, you can just tell what he's saying. His high screams are amazing. Just really good vocals. One of the best in the game. I know he's been doing it for a while, but he just sounds so good. So good. So props to you, homeboy. That just fantastic here. Number three, I would say this album has some of the coolest riffs I've heard. Like, there's something for everybody on this album, whether you love like metalcore riffs, thrash riffs, even hardcore riffs. Like, seriously, like, Denial Mechanism was so sick. It definitely had some Pantera influences here. Then it had some metalcore riff that sounded a little bit like Killswitch Engage, which I thought was really cool. So again, the guitar riffs really did a good job of like bringing a whole bunch of genres together to make it still sound like Lamb of God, but still having something for everybody on this album. Whatever type of metal you prefer, there is at least one song on here for you that you are going to enjoy. And I gotta say, man, number four, there is no filler on this album. Like, again, like, there's no interludes, there's no opening, there's no like intro track, outro track. All these songs are like literally all raw, no rubber, and seriously, they are fantastic. Really good stuff, man. Oh, I do have a few cons with the album here. I don't think it's going to drag down my score at all, but there are just a few things that I was like, you know, I guess it could have been improved a little bit here. I got to say, number one, some of the lyrics were a little bit cheesy. I forgot what song it was here, but it was talking about like doing like push-ups in the dark and stuff like that, and maybe I'm missing a bigger message with the song. I know overall, I read a little bit about this album before I went into it here, and this is a very, they said very pissed off, dark type record, and I could definitely tell that it is, but I guess the execution of some of the lyrics were a little bit cheesy in my opinion. Again, Randy's voice, like, honestly, like, it made it sound really cool, but if you read the lyrics through again, you're like, oh, some of it's a little maybe too on the nose at some point. Again, overall they were pretty good, but I just feel like some of them were a little on the nose here. But again, maybe I'm missing a bigger picture, and I'm more than happy to admit if I am missing something here. Just on my first initial listen, I just feel like some of the lyrics were a little bit cheesy. And honestly, I would say this album is a step up from the self-titled. While I didn't hate the self-titled album, it just didn't have as many songs that I liked or went back to. But this album is not reinventing the wheel. I mean, Lamb of God already did that back with their older stuff. Like when Lamb of God came out, there was like nothing like this before. Like this, like Killswitch Engage, Lamb of God, those types of bands. So I feel like they're just like, they're just like making their sound a little bit better. So again, if you're expecting to go into this album with them doing like a bunch of twists and turns and stuff like that, you're not going to get that here. What you get is a very standard, just metal record through and through, which some people may think that's a bad thing. For me, it's not too bad. I just want to throw that on there as well. Alright, so my top 3 favorite songs on this album. I gotta say, number 1, Ditch. That song should have been a single, man. I mean, seriously, I feel like that song really would have made people go like, okay, we are more than interested in this album. Now, I'm not saying they weren't interested before, but I feel like Ditch, for some reason, would have been a really good single to put out there. I love that song. Definitely my favorite song on the album here. Then I gotta say, Denial Mechanism, man. That song was really cool. That song, straightforward, felt like a hardcore song, and I thought that was really cool. I think Randy has done a little bit of hardcore. Again, I'm not too familiar with Lamb of God, but I think they did some earlier stuff, and they did some hardcore stuff as well, which I think is really cool. So it was cool to kind of have them bring a little bit of that element onto this album here, and it didn't really feel crowbarred in. Like it fit really well. Again, they brought in different genres of metal, but still having that Lamb of God sound, which I thought was really cool. And then honestly, the last song, by my surprise, I went back and listened to it again before I recorded this part, was Gomorrah. I hope I'm saying that correctly here. That song kind of started out with me going like, the riff's cool, but I don't know. But that song really picked up for me here when it started getting a little more into it. And the more I listened to it again, as I said, and I was like, I really like this song. So again, I'm going to put that on there as my number 3 pick. Again, it might change when I listen to it again, because I do plan on listening to this album here. Again, I am seeing them on Monday, so I'm going to be spinning this album probably a little bit more before I go see them on Monday. But those are the top 3 songs that stuck out to me. I really like this album, man. I didn't love the album, but I really liked it, to the point where I almost want to love it here. Again, I do not listen to Lamb of God on a daily basis here, but I am definitely familiar with their work. Anytime they put out new music, I always check it out here. And again, their last album, well, it wasn't the best. I honestly feel like their last album was a really good gateway for people to get into Lamb of God. For some reason, I'm like, it kind of just works. And I feel like this album is a continuation of their self-titled, where if you're not too into Lamb of God, honestly, the self-titled and Omens, and I think it's a really good gateway for the band. And I think also, not only is it a good gateway, I feel like seasoned fans of this band will be really satisfied with this album here. There's a lot to love. Again, there's so many different genres of metal on here: metalcore, thrash metal, hardcore. But again, it's all done in such a unique and a genuine way that doesn't feel crowbarred in. It doesn't feel like, okay, let's do it this way, and everything doesn't flow well. Everything flows well. Everything sounds great. There's so many things on this album that I enjoy. Well, again, I don't listen to this band so often. I really enjoyed this album a lot. It's not perfect by any means, and there are some songs on there that if I probably listen to it again, I'd be like, I mean, it's okay, probably just skip it here. But there's a lot for me to take away from this album. And again, these guys aren't going anywhere anytime soon, especially with stuff like this. They got their biggest tour ever coming up here. I think they're on tour right now, of course. But man, I enjoyed it, dude. This album was super sick. I'm going to give Lamb of God's Omens an 8 out of 10. Banger all the way through. A couple things that kind of wore it down for me here, but overall, just a super sick record.